Hello, Andrew here with Astro Trends. Taking a look at Gamestop right now. If you're new to the channel, what we do here is we combine astrological forecasting with traditional trend analysis to speculate on price movements in crypto and stock markets. So if you've been following our coverage of GameStop, we dropped this vertical here around the 17th for a low, for a target low. That's based on some astrological patterns we've been following. And we placed this vertical here on the 24th for a start to an uptrend. And so far that's been playing out decently. We got the low point so far here on the 21st. Today's the 24th. And we're starting to see some upward movement. So what we want to see is a continued upward trend. We want to hold this trend line here for support. This is the day chart here. We also want to get above these moving averages to see a continued upward trend. Right now, aside from this trend, this horizontal trend line, we also bounced off of the 50-period moving average on the day chart. But getting above that 20 and that 9 is going to be key. And you do see that they are approaching a kind of a scrunched upness over here within the next couple of days. And that can mean big moves to the upside or the downside. We've been forecasting an upward movement here, targeting on the conservative side around 291, just the where these candles closed here, and then 342. And if we push through those, then much higher to the moon, somewhere up there. But as we start to see that upward movement, we'll get more detailed on those price targets by whatever patterns form here. We may get a classic cup and handle price action here. So stay tuned for that. But so far so good. We were down a couple percentage points today from this morning. I think we jumped up like 3% and then we fell back down, like down 2%. But the thing to pay attention to here is we held support down here. We're ultimately up the last couple of days. We're retesting this support after having fallen through it. I think it would have been better to have just touched it off on this line here, but it's all the better if the price action is that strong. Then it looks like a retest right here, maybe all we need to see that upward movement that we're all hoping for. And so we want to see something like this or like this. So let's jump into the astrology and see what that is telling us. Alright, so looking at GameStop's chart on June 24th, around market open, we see the moon approaching an opposition to Jupiter, which is a bullish signal, but only on the smallest time scales. It can also be a good indicator, the moon that is, for timing bigger transits and when they'll be most active, or when you'll see their significance play out, the apex of their significance. We did get a little 3% hike off the open, but ultimately the day went negative. The one thing I see accounting for that possibly is Mercury opposite Jupiter, or opposite Pluto, that's approaching right now. Got Mercury at 16 degrees, Pluto at 17, so closing in over the next 3 days or so. By Monday, that will be separating. And what that could be indicating is some kind of FUD. Mercury is communication, Pluto is endings, death. It's a negative energy for, usually, it's an intense energy. But these meme stocks, you see, any downward movement, you immediately get the FUD. I mean, really with anything, downward movement, you get a lot of FUD. But there's a lot of people in the stock that are not very experienced with price movements, and also a lot of people that want to see the stock go down. There's the short squeeze, there's shorters, there's non-institutional shorters, but we see that beginning to turn around here. And also we have this Venus Mercury opposition closing in, which is a kind of counter indicator to this, opposite significance. We see good news, or we see good feelings, good vibes around communication, around the general sentiment of the stock and its price action. So good things to look forward to. As we've been covering, also the Sun is approaching that conjunction to Jupiter. We have Jupiter sitting on Venus, We've been watching all these contacts closely, and we're getting into the days where we should start to see them play out. By Monday and Tuesday into early next week, we should have begun to see some significant upward price movement if we're going to get it in the short term. If we don't see, and we also have the moon on the 29th, giving that higher resolution time target as it passes over the sun and Venus. So if we don't see some significant upward movement by early next week, I'll be targeting the week after, as Venus down here approaches an opposition to natal Venus. It'll be passing over the sun, maybe even the midpoint between Mercury and Venus here, and even more so the midpoint between the sun and Venus. These are going to be high target points. We also have Neptune in here, which is dissolves boundaries, in this case dissolves resistance, leads to hyper-inflated prices, which is what we're looking for with this meme stock here. So if we don't see it by early next week, this is already the 11th here, what we're looking at. So that's about 2.5 weeks away, the end of the following week, and into that next week. So we'll be tracking all this. If we do see the upward price action that we're expecting by the end of this week and into early next week, then it's just going to be even more upward movement from there. But if we don't see it by next week, I'm thinking we might have a little bit of a pullback, or at least we may struggle around in this area. We could fall down to a moving average, something like that. But the indicators are still showing that we should see some upward price action here, and then in the next 2 weeks after that, even more so. If we don't see it this week, though, best case scenario, we're holding onto this trend line, and then we move up. So it's just getting further out here. The 11th, let's drop that in. I'll drop it on the 12th. So this is still in the ballpark, still actually playing out pretty nicely. We're already beginning to see upward trend. If we move down, we'll target this line. If we move sideways, it's going to look really good for those indicators that are further out. Really, as Venus traverses this sign here, starting on the 27th, or around the 27th, all the way into next month, around the 20th, 21st. This should all be great price action. So forecast, as we've been covering it, is still looking strong. It's playing out pretty well. So stay tuned for those updates. Keep an eye on these support levels. And if you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe. Not financial advice as always, but give us a like and subscribe, and stay tuned.